morning. We're doing a back to basics class. Today we'll go through about 4 or 5 different movements along with just connecting in with your awareness and with your breathing. Shoulders, hips. We're going to start with hips. I do want to mention that we'll be using the spinal strip, and a number of the other videos have used a spinal strip as well. This is a foam strip. We have them in our store if you would like one. You can also use a rolled mat or a rolled towel or a blanket. But you'll notice that the width of it is about the same as a rolled mat, like a small rolled mat. So go ahead and use that as well. And if there's interest, I can do a couple little practices solely with the spinal strip itself, because that's kind of interesting of all the things you can do with this sucker. Okay, so let's begin on our backs with our legs in Baddha Konasana. So we're going to be moving the legs wide into a cobbler pose, and your legs are going to come over top of the bolster. So the feet are going to come together, and the legs are going to come wide like this. Okay. Have your strap close by, and have your strip or another rolled mat or a blanket close by. Okay. So we're just going to start with breathing and just touching in with yourself. Yeah. So it's 5 a.m. here in Calgary, and so I've woken up about half an hour ago, and so I'm just noticing myself, how my sleep was with me and how I was with my sleep. You know, and you can feel when you wake up in the morning, or I find this for myself, is I can feel the remnants of the day prior and just how I was and how the day was with me prior and how I am now when I wake up, right? And so it's just curious just to notice where I'm at. And then those of you who it's more midday, or if you're following me just before you go to bed, same thing. Like, just notice how you and your day were together. And touch base with your breath. You know, I talk so much about awareness because really you can't change anything you're not aware of. And sometimes it sort of sucks what you become aware of. I'll admit that. But at least you're aware of it now, right? At least you're aware of it. I had a friend of mine who had this thing on her back. It was like a little nobule, and she didn't want to go to the doctor because she didn't want to find out what it was. And we can go in those places, right? We go to those places where we just don't want to know, because we think the monster of knowing is worse than not knowing. But what I found when it comes to movement and recovery and then a healing process is that when things bubble up in your awareness, it's ready to come up, even though it's uncomfortable sometimes. It's ready to come up. So we don't need to force anything to come up. It will come up. And then we get to meet it where it's there. Yeah. So with that, let's settle into the breathing and feel how the legs are supported by the bolster. Notice the inhale coming in and the exhale going out. And notice where you feel anything. And the words that you would use to describe whatever it is that you feel, whether it's openness or softness or ease, or tension or tightness or numbness. Knowing that all of those words are good words. None of them are suggesting that anything is bad or wrong in your system. They're just descriptors of what is. Okay, a couple more breaths now. And you can change the position of your legs and have them go straight, or you can leave them here in Baddha Konasana, or you can just bend them and not have the bolster under them at all. Put your legs in whatever comfortable position that you need, and we're going to take the strap and place it between our hands. And the idea here is that our hands are shoulder width apart, and you're going to raise the hands up to the sky. So you'll see here my shoulder is moving up, and if you want to go back even further, my blades are moving away from the spine. But what you can see is your shoulder, and it's lifting off the floor. And so that's where I want your focus to be, is just the shoulders lifting up. And watch if your chin wants to go or if your neck wants to go. And just have it be about, the shoulder and the shoulder blade. I'm going to come up. I want to show you something. So the movement is this, right? So sometimes someone's head can get into it, or the rib cage can get into it. And I really just want you to notice if you can go there. It's interesting. I'm working on a program for the older adult, and we'll be announcing that really, really, really soon. Because I think a lot of you who follow me are going to be really interested in it. And it's just this notion of, if you, as you're getting older, so say you're in your late 50s and your 60s, 70s and your 80s, okay, and then rest that. Let's bring the arms over your head. One of the big challenges that you begin to face is that your larger joints start to become less mobile. And this is something, from the time before even I wrote my Anatomy and Asana book. That's one of my big principles, is move from your largest joints first, which is why I focus so much on the shoulders and the hips. Because when we can enable those to become more functional, then so much other stuff improves. And so important for when you are cresting through the mid-50s and through to your 60s and upwards to your 70s. Okay, good. So you're moving in a click-free, clunk-free range of motion. Allowing your breath to be easy. Try not holding those ribs down. Just to move your arms as far as the ribs don't move. Good. Okay. And then bring the strap back up and then rest back down. And so the focus really is to really just move better. All right. Now you're going to take your index finger and your thumb tip of your right hand and touch those together. Same with your left hand. And now imagine you've got some string between your hands and you're going to pull them wide. So now the arms are going to come wide. So you'll notice my elbow here. My elbow is staying at the same angle. What's moving are my shoulders. So the articulating joint here are the arm bones in the shoulder socket. And then just come back to your breathing. So while this way of moving benefits all of our decades, the massive impact and influence on how you live through those decades of your 60s and 70s and 80s is just so amazingly beneficial. It's so awesome. Okay, so now we're going to roll over. We're going to pull this bolster away. Actually, you know what? Don't do that. I've changed my mind. We're going to come back here. Slight shift in focus here. Okay. What we're going to do now is we're going to take one leg up towards the sky. Okay, now do your best to keep your pelvis right where it is, yeah? So those of you who are my 50-year-olds, 60-year-olds, and 70-year-olds, good. This one's really for you. Okay, rotate that leg bone in that hip socket. Okay, good. And then press that, take that ankle onto the knee. Now, I'm a fan of everybody moving well, but I have a soft spot for you guys. Because lots of people think that the stat is we stop carrying at 50. We stop really, really working and carrying at 50. And that things begin to pile on and we just say, well, that's just aging. We're just going to hang on for the ride. Now I'm not in my 50s. So I'm just expressing things that I've heard. But I've also worked with a lot of people in their 50s and 60s and 70s and 80s. And here's what I know to be true. Pause. Let's take that leg off. Other side. Leg comes up. Rotate that leg bone. Okay, and then place the ankle onto the knee. That whole time that pelvis was quiet, right? And then when you're here, placing your hands in the front of your hip, moving that leg bone, let those hip flexors be quiet. Yeah? Let those hip flexors be quiet. So here's what I know to be true in terms of the people that I've worked with, is that they tell me they feel 25 years younger when they move better. And I've just been teaching them this stuff, you know? The stuff that I've been teaching for almost 30 years. I've just been teaching this to them and they feel way, way, way better. So it's not this thing that as you crest into your 50s and your 60s and your 70s that it's game over. You can actually move a lot better. You just have to be consistent about it. Not unlike someone who's not in their 50s and 60s and 70s who's wanting to recover from pain. It's this consistency word that's so important. Okay, let's take that ankle off. Good. And let's bring that ankle other side back up. Okay. Now we're going to start to take a rotation. Yeah. So the pelvis, you'll see here, watch how I go over to the left. My pelvis lifts off, but my shoulders stay on the ground. Now as I come to the right, my pelvis, you can see it's coming off. Yeah. So what I'd like you to pay attention to is as you move over one direction, so my right leg is up and I'm moving to my left. As I do that, pay attention that your leg doesn't fall inward. So your hip flexor remains soft on both sides as you do that movement, left and right. Because what's controlling that movement is your abdomen, not your hip flexors. So it's primarily your obliques that are going to be focusing on that movement, but try not to anticipate it by clenching your abdomen. Notice what happens as you move yourself into a twist. The load changes, right? Your orientation changes. So as you do that, your abdomen will likely kick in. Your shoulders might too, and your jaw and your face. We don't want those. So only move as far as that. Let me back up. If you notice that happening, you can feel the orientation change. That's important. What's also important is that you don't use your jaw and your neck and your shoulders to control the movement. So you're noticing, that there's an orientation change. That's important. But now, can you allow for that change in orientation between your pelvis and your ribs without that happening? Which means that you're going to need to make the movement smaller, probably. Not forever, just for now. Hip flexors are quiet. Yeah? Okay, good. Okay, ankle comes off. Let's go to the other side. Leg comes up and rotate and the foot comes down. Let's do that again. We're going to rotate. And it really doesn't matter which leg is up if you've got the opposite one to me. We're doing the same thing, meaning that we're rotating. And the hip flexors are soft. And you're noticing just where you're controlling the movement from. Becomes super fun. And if you are recovering from knee replacement or hip replacement, and for the hip replacements, your contraindications allow you to be in this position, then as you improve this awareness and your overall function, you'll feel a whole lot better. Okay, good. Good. Now bring your legs down into Baddha Konasana or legs over and just now notice what it is that you feel. Notice your breathing. And for some of you, you'll notice your breathing so much easier now. And then what you'll notice out of that, one of the reasons that your breathing is so much better, now we are going to roll over and we're going to grab this spinal strip. One of the reasons your breathing is so much better is because the tightness or the limitation in your tissue around your body, that impacts the ability for your body to move as the air comes in and the air goes out. So when we become more supple, then we can get more air in and it becomes that much more efficient. Yeah. Okay, so if you've got one of these suckers, we're going to fold it in half. We're going to do double fold. If you've got a second mat or a towel, you can do the same thing. Okay, so where this is going to be placed is right at the bottom of your breastbone, but on the back side. So for women, it's right where around that bra strap is. So it's right in that area here. Okay, so we're just going to lie back. Have your strap handy and lie back. Okay, so what this does, okay, I want to show you something here. What this does is your head is now higher than your pelvis. So you're in a little bit of a back bend here. Okay. Now for some of you, this is going to be like way too much. So guess what? If it is, come off, use something a bit smaller. Yeah. I had a comment on a video recently about, Susie, can you do something more for wrists? And then she added, I know the wrists have to do with the shoulder girdle. Yes. Yes, there's often something related to the shoulder girdle and the rib cage. So we're just going to have the strap handy on your pelvis. I'll talk about wrists in a moment here. But for now, I just want you to settle into whatever it is you're lying on, whether it's the spinal strip, a mat, or a towel. And just let your body relax and be easy. Okay, soft eyes. Now let's bring the hands back up. So we've got the strap. We did this earlier. We've got the strap. Now we're going to do the same thing. Raise and lower the arms. Now because you are likely on a height, this will feel different, right? Because your shoulders, before, they banged into the floor, right? Now you're able to move them more into retraction. So more, those blades can come towards your spine. So notice if your elbows want to bend and keep them in the same angle they were. So if they started straight, keep them straight. Okay, good. Now let's bring the arms over your head. Now something I didn't mention earlier is that we want the elbows to stay in the same angle. And I want you to also watch to see that there's no clicking and clunking and you're not kind of weaving your way down. Try to make the movement as pure as you can. So you might have a huge range, but you're not doing the movement very well, which, I don't know, I don't find that very helpful. So if you can move well in the range that you, like in a smaller range, then you might notice that you improve faster. Even like in this sequence with me. So just see what happens when you move in a range that's clunk and click free, that your wrists and elbows stay in the exact same position they were in, and you're moving in a place of ease, right? Because you want to cultivate more ease, I think, yeah? Most people who follow me here are interested in ease. They're interested in soft and strong. They're interested in not being rigid and braced. And so however you move is what you cultivate. So just notice what it is that you're cultivating and how you're moving. Yeah? All right, last one. Good. And then take that off and then come back. And then whatever you were lying on, you take it away and you just rest here. Good. Super easy. Okay, so now I want you to roll over, coming up into sitting. And then whether you have a bolster or you have another block lying around, come up and have a seat. And now let's notice where you're at. I like coming into vertical sometimes because I've got this cord here. Because it's interesting to notice what it's like to now be vertical. And how your system feels like being vertical. And if what you just did has you sitting more vertical, right? Or more easily. And then when you do get up into standing and walk around, notice that too. Like pay attention to the shift that's happened, if there is one, because then that gives you an understanding that that's what you can have more long term, right? You just have to notice during your day how you burn it up. Yeah? All right. Now noticing your breathing. And then bring your hands together. And breathe in with ease. Nice. And out with gratitude. Lovely. You have a really, really, really great day. And I will see you tomorrow morning. Take good care.